Kheng, over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Andrew. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to share the stage with Capt again, picking up on the conversation that we had last year at Marine Money, where you shared the ambitions of the group and you called out for partnership as we set out on this transition journey. Since then, with now your mandate as CEO, MISC has set very clear net zero targets and ambition, and has certainly been very busy. I think a couple of things we see in the press, the Castor initiative is something that has been spearheading the ammonia engine initiatives. But we also saw the Kasuari carbon capture offshore platform reflecting the various initiatives that MISC is taking across its verticals. In terms of the agenda today, as the panel suggests, it's putting kind of action into, putting kind of idea into action. But before we get into that, we've heard today from various industry leaders, regulators. We've heard on the action that MEP 18 has taken place and a lot more that will be coming down the road. I wanted to get, but there's still differing views on how fast we're progressing and what else we need to do. So I want to kick off with that and get a penny for your thoughts on the progress that we have made, a year from what we've spoken on this. Cap.
Thank you, Kheng. Good to be back. Thanks for the invitation. Lovely to see colleagues, friends, collaborators, regulators, everyone in the room. And outside there, I can sense the vibe, the energy, the passion on the agenda of the day. Right. 1 year on, have we made progress? I believe that as an industry, we've made significant progress. Yeah. I mean, panel members before us have already said in terms of the huge leap which has been done. Yes, we have said the industry has moved a little bit ahead than legislators, but I would say that legislators have actually brought in the much needed disruption, the discussion onto the table for the industry themselves to move forward, right? And being ahead of the game, there's nothing wrong being ahead of the game, and I believe that that's where we are. Much more to do, definitely, but still, we have moved forward. That would be my take. I mean, as an organization, I mean, you did mention previously, in your opening about the couple of things that we are doing as an organization. I mean, just a brief in terms of MISC. It's not just shipping, which is the petroleum shipping and the gas shipping. We've also got a fabrication yard, which is 120,000 metric tons fabrication capacity. That's where the Kasuari CCS comes in, right? And then we've also got an offshore division, which is the FPSOs, FSOs, and then going into the new AIPs in carbon storage, ammonia, FPSOs, etc., as a design in terms of AIP. We also manage boutique ports and terminals around Malaysia and in the region. We have a maritime academy, which we manage as part of concession agreement with the government of Malaysia. We still have another 27 years in terms of that concession agreement. And hopefully next year we'll add on another business division. I was just in Japan last week signing term sheets in terms of carbon management, in terms of that ecosystem together with our majority shareholder, Petronas and MOL. And those are a couple of things that we are doing our team members have done over the last 1 year in terms of, from the previous discussion we've had till now. So moving forward in a progressive manner.
Thank you for sharing that. Really interesting to see the number of MOUs and joint ventures being put into plan. I think, like you shared earlier, the LO2s with Petronas, but also I think Castor initiative where we saw partnerships with the likes of Samsung. We have regulators here in MPA. There was Lloyd's Register, and we're also talking about kind of there are a lot of Asia-focused kind of partnerships together with PTT as well as the off-taker most recently. Right? And in the spirit of kind of collaboration, and given that this is an Asia-focused panel, I want to kind of get your views on the roles and responsibilities, in your view, of owners and industry leaders to affect this change, and how that incorporates in MISC's plan in executing this.
Kheng. You brought, I mean, if this is not under the Chatham House rules, right? No, so I've got to be a bit more guarded in how I say it, because in normal sense I'm quite pretty direct, right, in my views. Asia Pacific, in terms of, if you look at from legislative point of view, right, you always hear about legislation being very much industrialized nation and European-centric in terms of it being driven. Where Asia-Pacific, with the powers of economy in Asia-Pacific, with the growth agenda, the gentleman from UBS just now has actually narrated very, very well in terms of where the landings are and where the growths are, etc. You can see that Asia-Pacific has got a very prominent position to play on a global stage. But largely, Asia-Pacific seems to be policy followers, accepting policies, rather than setting policies. I find that a bit strange. Industrialized nations are the ones who have polluted the world in the past. And then new emerging economies needs to have their fair chance in terms of doing what is right for society. You take Indonesia, for example, I mean, whichever numbers that you take, the amount of coal that they have, that's enough to power their energy generation for the next 7, 8, 9 decades, all right? And we are asking that economy to say, you do one shift. You skip one transition shift and you go fully into another shift. We need to be fair to society as well in terms of doing that shift. APAC needs to stand up and be counted in terms of policy shaping rather than just policy accepting. I know a lot of countries within the Asia-Pacific economy who's taking those steps. In, Prof. Lin and me, we were invited as part of what Caroline's, she's a vice chair of ICS, invited for the SAMS MI in Goa under the G20. And that's where it was quite an eye-opener for me personally, a learning lesson in terms of shipping being a hard-to-abate industry. It's music to my ears when I heard parallel streams in cement industry, the steel and iron industry, etc., talking about the same thing in terms of wanting to do good for society. Shipping, by and large, is the most energy-efficient mode of transportation in the world. And the shipping industry, the maritime industry, is taking a huge step in terms of moving forward. Legislators need to do more. Financiers need to do more in terms of this responsible transitioning. It is not just transitioning, it is also responsible transitioning. Last year, in the same forum, I said that financial institutions need to participate in the technology risk of what the industry is taking. Is it the commodity, which is the evil, or is it the emissions, which we need to manage, or both, from the source and also from the emissions? And at the end of the day, it is societal emissions. A lot of leaders in this room have already said in terms of doing good for the next generation. APAC needs to stand up and be counted, that APAC is doing its worth in this transitioning in not just a just fashion, but also responsible fashion. So legislators, I know there's a lot of support coming in. Financiers, you're not doing enough in terms of this just and responsible transitioning. Is it like, I mean, the panel before, I think, Caroline, you mentioned about there's a product, what is the solution? No, that's not the way to play it. We have a problem, we collaborate in terms of managing this problem, rather than expecting the demand and supply to be aggregated and developed by the industry. No, it cannot. It has to be just, it has to be responsible. Sorry if I overstayed my welcome on that question.
Fantastic messages there. I took away that as a region, APAC, we need to chart our own future, create our own narrative in the context of both the past and the future. I think transition needs to be just, as you've rightly pointed out, and financiers need to play a role as well in supporting this. So given on that theme, I want to kind of draw into actual projects. Again, I've talked a little bit about what you've announced, and I think thank you for sharing the liquid CO2 carriers, which was in a partnership with Petronas and your Japanese partner. So there are actual projects now that are being put in place, right? I wanted to get your views on the conversations that you are having with your financiers in some of these projects. I mean, maybe with a little context, we saw a lot of capital move away from more carbon-intensive gray areas, chasing, frankly, very few kind of green and renewable projects. And here are projects that chart the transition process. So wanted to get your experience in your conversations with financiers on these kind of projects.
I take, is Kenneth still in the room? So the panel, hi Kenneth. I take Kenneth's point just now, right? Use cases, case studies, those sort of things, the standard narrative in terms of for the future focus products, right? To manage societal emissions is just not there. So it's a leap of faith that we have to take. It brings me back to memory about when we first started with our LNG dual fuel in a portfolio that I was managing previously in the petroleum subsidiary of MISC under the brand name of AET. We started 2 Aframaxes LNG dual fuel, and this decision we did was around 2016, 2017. I was still in my first year as the CEO of that at that outfit, and then strengthening the balance sheet and also managing a transition challenge, right, at that stage. And we delivered that asset in 2018, and those 2 assets, the Eagle Brasilia and Eagle Bintulu, we made those decisions without a charter in place, without financing in place. And for a balance sheet like ours at that point in time, that's a huge leap of faith that we took, right? And we decided, because we're not being treated fairly and equitably in the transition risk that we're taking, we equity financed the 2 assets on our own balance sheet. No project financing, no debt financing, because we felt that we need to make a statement of intent in terms of doing that. I'm feeling the same today. In my LCO2s, in my carbon capture, that portfolio that we are looking at in terms of that pivoting, etc., is like the first mover disadvantage is still there. Yes, somebody with a balance sheet like ourselves, because of the good work of past leaders, team members of the past, and team members and leadership of the leadership team of the present, we can say that an organization like ourselves can assume that in our balance sheet and move that needle. And we will do that, all right? If I have to do it on that manner, we will do it. But, more than 50% of the shipping industry are largely small and medium-sized ship owning. Not everyone can do that. So in that respect is where we say, yeah, there is going to be a divergence at the start, but we believe that there will be convergence eventually. But the convergence eventuality must happen faster. That 1.5 degrees that we're talking about is for the next generation. I'm blessed with 3 lovely kids, nieces, nephews. I'm still looking forward to my grandchildren. My eldest girl hasn't informed us of any good news yet. All right, but it is for the next generation that we're talking about. Leaders of the present, we all can retire happily. We can retire happily. But what are we leaving behind for the next generation? And that will include leaders in the financial institutions. Don't just accept policies set by your leaders which says that this is out, this is in. Ask questions. Just like, the younger generation asking us a lot of questions, the activists asking us a lot of questions. Ask questions and tell your leaders if it needs to be shaped differently in order to move to a just and responsible transition. We need to do that in that manner. So that would be what I see currently. I mean, MISC as an organization is 5.5 decades old this year. I've been in this industry and in this organization for nearly 4 decades. So I can say with a little bit of experience that this is a deeper transition than transitions that we have seen in the past. And it requires the industry players, it requires the legislators, it requires the financial institutions, largely the financial institutions, to be part of the solution and not moving and getting the industry to expect the industry to always take the first mover disadvantage and then see how we support. Sorry for being a little bit direct, but I thought that among friends here, we could all take that message in terms of how do we move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Captain Raja. You're putting me a little bit in the spot here, but I will deflect to my boss who's sitting right there for the follow-up conversation thereafter in doing more. But let's end with this, given we have last time, we spoke of the progress that we made in the last 12, 18 months. In the next 12 months, 18 months, whether we are here or in a coffee shop, what do you want to see happen?
Number one, I want to see us all remaining friends. Number two, the conversation getting more purposeful in terms of what are the solutions on the table in a tripartite manner. That would be my ask of all of us here. And I want to thank everyone for being participative in this discussion. I mean, 5 years ago, we would not have discussions talking about emissions to solutions in a very open manner as we have today. We have progressed, right? We are an industry which is hard to abate. But at the end of the day, shipping is the most energy efficient modality of transportation in the world. And in this industry, we need more talent to join our industry. So we need to remain attractive in terms of our tagline. We need to be seen as solutions providers rather than, the senior leaders in very nice jackets, ties, sitting in very comfortable hotels and restaurants and not knowing what we are doing. All right? We don't need the younger generation to be thinking about us in that manner. We need the younger generation to join our industry, and as part of this transition, it's actually a huge opportunity for us to attract the emerging talent into our industry.
Thank you very much, Cap. I think you've ended it very well. Assured me at least that we are here to stay for the very close future, and we need to continuously improve, not for ourselves, but to ensure the future viability of the industry. And with that, I will end our session, and thank you again for your time.